We're all in our private traps, clamped in them, and none of us can ever get out. We scratch and claw, but only at the air, only at each other.
A film that revolutionized horror forever, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho embodies a number of different film techniques to produce a nuanced and captivating masterpiece. In this video essay, I will shed light on the ways Hitchcock uses a subjective camera, a concept that will be elaborated on throughout this video, to deviously manipulate the way the viewer conceives the film at any given moment. Furthermore, the filming techniques will be analyzed as vehicles for exploring the concept of madness in relation to the film as a whole. To analyze how exactly Hitchcock accomplishes this, I will be deconstructing the madhouse scene in terms of three key elements: framing, dialogue, and score. In this scene, characters Marion Crane and Norman Bates have a chilling conversation about mental institutions, displaying an interesting dynamic between the two. The conversation begins with Norman discussing his taxidermy hobby in a rather light-hearted, yet awkward tone that Norman often displayed in his initial appearances in the film. The scene gradually transitions into being significantly more intense, as the topic of Norman's mother in relation to madhouses is introduced. The conversation between the two characters begins with colloquial, surface-level dialogue. However, as seen in the first clip of this video, the scene develops an ominous overtone as Norman discusses private traps, stating he was born in his, suggesting that his mother is indeed his private trap. Given that Norma Bates has become the subject of the conversation, there are many significant elements and details to consider in the following clip.
If anyone ever talked to me the way I heard, the way she spoke to you.
Sometimes, when she talks to me like that, I feel I'd like to go up there and curse her and leave her forever. Or at least defy her. But I know I can't.
The shift in the framing of the scene, as well as the drastic change in Norman's facial expressions, are the first notable features of this scene fragment. This change in expression likely signifies Norman succumbing to his mad identity, or more specifically, the inner battle between him and his shared identity with his mother. The framing of the scene shifts from a comfortable display of Norman to a much more dramatic one, where Norman seems to be looming over the foreground, and his taxidermy owl appears as a blurry but sizable figure in the background. The appearance of the owl likely foreshadows an eerie future, as it seems to be in a position to capture its prey, revealing not only the dark fate awaiting Marion, but the inevitable destruction of Norman's identity as well. The aforementioned features of the scene, such as the framing of Norman, ultimately subjectify the viewer's feelings about the characters, thus elaborating on the previously mentioned concept, subjective cameras. To highlight further examples, let's take a look at the framing of Norman in not only this particular scene, but throughout the film. As shown in these shots, Norman is consistently placed in the right corner of the frame, leaving a considerable amount of space empty in the foreground. Hitchcock did this deliberately, for two likely reasons. It causes the viewer to become discomforted by Norman's presence, and, in addition, it causes Norman to be projected as weak, emphasizing the effect of his mental state on his physical and emotional presence. The following clip reveals the pinnacle of the scene, thus leading to many significant changes in filming style and character dynamic. The three focus elements of this video, framing, dialogue, and score, all come together in unison to reveal the scene's climax.
I don't hate her. I hate what she's become. I hate the illness.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution? A madhouse? People always call a madhouse someplace, don't they? Put her in someplace.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to sound uncaring.
What do you know about caring? Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The laughing and the tears, and the cruel eyes studying you. My mother there?
The first notable aspect of this particular clip is the drastic change in the framing of Norman in relation to the rest of the screen. When Marion suggests that Norman's mother is put someplace, Norman immediately becomes the center of the scene's frame, a significant change from the previous framing pattern. This shift in framing ultimately makes both Marion and the viewer uncomfortable, making Norman's character assume a more intimidating persona. The dialogues and tones of the two characters become essential parts of the scene in this particular clip, as Marion suggesting that Norman puts his mother someplace triggers Norman's tone to become chilling and discomforting. Norman reacts by vehemently interrogating Marion, asking her if she has ever experienced a mental institution. His passionate tirade almost makes the viewer question why Norman is so familiar with mental institutions and whether or not he has first-hand experience, hinting at the possible mental condition of Norman. Finally, this clip introduces music for the first time throughout the entire scene. The chosen score, Bernard Herrmann's Madhouse, is titled similarly to the other pieces of the film, as the title describes the most significant aspect of its corresponding scene. Immediately when madhouses are mentioned, and Norman takes up the framing of the screen, the eerie music is cued in. The low bass, contrasted with the shrill treble, ultimately contributes to the spine-chilling aura of the scene as a whole, but more importantly, it defines what a madhouse may sound like inside Norman's head. A dreadful, unpleasant place with cruel and severe conditions.
She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
Norman Bates, famously stating, "We all go a little mad sometimes," leaves the scene with impeccable foreshadowing of the film's forthcoming fate and leaves the viewer to ruminate the true meaning of madness.